Could it be?
Yes.
Indubitably. I don't know, man.
It is definitely
Copacetic.
As I see it.
It's perfectly copacetic. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to It's Copacetic, possibly the greatest podcast to ever exist. Who are we kidding? Definitely not. But today we're joined back with our original hosts, the classic crew, if you will, John, Harker, and Hyrum. Hyrum being myself. And today we have some fantastic topics lined up. One of the ones that was really stuck out to me, and I really thought we should always mention was childhood trauma. Now, I know it's been done before by other people, but hey, everyone has a different childhood, okay? We all have different experiences. And so, John, why don't you take it away with a couple of childhood traumas of your own?
Well, I don't know if I could start us off because of the childhood traumas which I faced were tragic and scary.
First, I think I'd like to mention where we're gonna be lighthearted here,
Dude,
right?
Yeah, I'm not discussing like real tragedies of there's real things that happen to me, but I'm not gonna discuss like
we're using the
gruesome
word,
stuff.
We're using the word trauma facetiously.
No, dude, I've got
facetiously
PTSD.
in a way.
This is very
Well,
serious.
I can remember there was a time when, and this is just something that occurred in my childhood as a trauma, is we played this little game with these things called paintball guns. And of course that's
was the
pretty,
game called paintball?
Yeah, but see, when I say paintball guns and everybody's like, paintball, oh yeah, everybody's played that because, now it's a mainstay. People have done it. There's all this equipment for it. But I'm talking about back in the day when paintball first came about. Nobody had heard of it. It was something very new. My dad had gone down to the valley, I believe, if I'm remembering it correctly. And while he was down there, he heard about this game. And at that point in time, where the game kind of originated from was, the Forest Service would go around and they would mark certain trees for a tree that needed to be removed, one that didn't, one that had to be kept. And what they would use to mark the trees was paint. Well, somebody had developed a little CO2 air gun that shot a little paint pellet. Not too little. I mean, they're the size of a dime, pretty much. And that paint pellet would mark the tree. Well, of course, you have a gun that shoots a paint pellet that marks something. It's just a matter of time before you have a group of people shooting these things at one another. And so began paintball as we know it. But these were pretty rudimentary guns. They were very simple. There was like a tube of like 12 paintballs that would go in a top slot, and there was like a cocking mechanism on the back of the gun that you would push in to kind of cock it, and it was a single shot. The barrel was right below the tube, so gravity fed it in. You pulled the trigger, and the paintball would fly out the front at whatever you were aiming at. Now, of course, these weren't very super accurate. There was like an aiming sight on the top of it, but good luck.
It's like a Nerf gun.
Yeah, kind of like a Nerf gun. And because this is like nothing automatic or semi-automatic, nothing like that. It's just, and so essentially what you would do is you'd put on these masks that look like what you'd wear in wood shop, just plastic goggles that covered your eyes to keep your eyes from getting blasted out. Your nose, your lips, every other part of your face is exposed, and you'd run around and shoot each other.
Now,
anyway,
where does the trauma come into play for you?
Yeah, where does the trauma begin? Like, it's quite simple. I can just tell you where the trauma began. One of these guns was powerful enough that, the corrugated fiberglass sidings that sometimes are used on greenhouses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The stuff's pretty tough. One of those little suckers would shoot a hole right through that corrugated siding. So to give you an idea. So one of my childhood traumas are I grew up in a trailer park area, and I was playing with my brother, and he had a gun and I had a gun, and I think I had what I would consider the chintzier gun, or the more inadequate gun, because of course I'm the youngest. And I peeked my little head around the end of the trailer looking down the long end, and just as I peeked my head around the corner, I hear the pop, and I go to yank my head back from around the corner, but of course I didn't make it, and his aim was true, and I caught a paintball almost dead center of the forehead, and it felt like as if somebody had thrown a rock right into my forehead. And that was traumatic for me, because that was the first time in my life where I actually thought somebody had shot me in the head, and that something had gone into my brain, because it hurt so bad. But I was okay. It turned out I was just pretty bad welt that I had to walk around with for about 3 weeks. But
jeez, dude.
Yeah, those paintball
Traumatic,
markers
bro.
can get you pretty good.
They put you straight in the trenches of Nam out there, man. Poor little 12-year-old can't handle that. Getting
no joke.
shot at.
It went from being G.I. Joe to on run for your life, like real quick.
It's crazy you brought that up, because I was thinking about paintball just sitting around earlier. I was like, man, it's a different experience when you actually get out there in the trenches yourself, and you realize, war really does suck, because you're just like sitting behind a wall of tires, you're hoping you don't get shot in the face. It's not fun.
Yeah, and that's just paintball.
Yeah.
Imagine lead bullets flying at you. That would be horrific.
So if you want to understand the horrifying nature of war, you just go down to a paintball field and shoot at people.
No, I don't even think that a paintball field will really give you the horrifying nature.
Well, see, here's an example. Even I remember playing paintball, and like it was just like World War I, because there was one guy on the other team who had like a machine gun of paintballs. Back in World War I,
there's always that one guy.
Yeah, and that's just like World War I, because you'd just be walking through the woods with your boys, and you'd all just have like bolt action rifles, and then you'd round a corner and some like German dudes are on the ledge with a machine gun, and he'd kill all of you in a second. And that was what happened in paintball too. So I can see how.
Face it, in paintball we've all dreamed of, hey, I'm gonna get a minigun and bah!
Yeah. It's just like real life. Who doesn't want to get a minigun and shoot it?
Here's the thing, there's also the fact that paintball guns have a tendency to jam and to not work. Especially one instance I had, it had gotten so cold that in the middle of this isn't my childhood, it's been a long time, and paintball guns have developed quite a bit. They have the fully automatic electric ones and whatnot. So there's a lot, and there's been paintball for a lot longer of a time, so more specialty game modes have been set up. Well, we were playing a sniper one where basically we had like little positions in like a 20-meter radius, and we'd set up forts behind like tires or whatever we could find. And so we're sitting there. I think Hyrum was actually involved with me on this one.
Yeah, I was. In the
We're
trenches.
We're sitting there behind this little barricade of used tires. And we're taking turns like shooting at our opponents from 20 yards away. And it's hard to aim a paintball 20 yards away, especially when the other person's like hiding and ducking as well. And it's a sniper mode, so we're all staying in place. Well, it's starting to get really cold because it's like late October and it's like 8 o'clock in the evening. So our guns run on CO2. And a fun fact about CO2 paintball guns is if it starts to get cold, the action of your gun will jam. It'll freeze solid. And so Hyrum's gun stopped working. It had frozen solid. And so we were sitting there with only one remaining gun. And then mine stopped working as well. So we're basically sitting there, like, with these two jammed guns, unable to do anything but hope.
We were sitting ducks, man. It was like we'd gotten all the way down to the last two. It was so great. We were having a great time, The gun stops working. We're just sitting there taking the shots. I remember we were shooting it like manually. We were pulling it back, taking one shot.
Well, that's an element of war. Sometimes you run out of ammo and there's nothing to do but to sit and await your fate.
No, we had plenty of ammo. It was just useless. But anyway, let's stop stealing valor, because this is just paintball.
What do you mean?
But,
I died for my country.
Hey, there is paintball valor.
Yeah, dude, I have like
Sometimes when you're diving behind the bush and your hopper pops open and all the balls dump out on the ground, you've got to fight for your right to get those balls back in your hopper and get them clean.
Amen, brother. Amen. Well, it's like,
But
if paintball...
I think that's one thing, though, paintball does teach people is, like, you get in those situations where it's kind of freaky, like there's nothing you can do and you're just hosed. And afterwards, you can think back to, man, I'm glad that was just a paintball game.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't get domed in real life.
Yeah.
Because I do all the time in paintball.
Domed in real life.
Man, you know what was the worst? Getting shot in the finger. Because it would just rip your skin right off. Just straight to the bone. It's the worst. And it's like, I don't know if you, like, when a wound's healing, if you move it, it's going to hurt more, right? You don't realize how much your hand moves in a day until it's ripped open.
I will have to say, though, the stupidest thing I've ever seen in a game of paintball is we were playing paintball up behind in the hills behind my house. It was kind of a walk. It was it was like a mile and a half away. We'd walk up in the hills, and there were some rocks up in the hills, and we'd all play paintball up in there. And actually, one time somebody called the police on us, but that was okay. The police kind of knew what we were doing. But
dude, I have another story that I'm going to share later on. But you just reminded me.
But these, so we're up there playing, and we brought this new guy with us to play up there. And I guess paintball does serve a purpose in the world. Before you take anybody to a real range with real firearms, you could take them to a paintball range and decide whether or not you want to take them to a real range, because this joker almost popped his eye out because, what does he do when his gun isn't functioning correctly? Because here's what it is. Most of them are gravity fed. So he's pulling the trigger because he has it like leaned to the side or whatnot. It's not feeding through the hopper down into it to shoot out. So nothing's coming out. And so Genius Boy's like, nothing's working. He looks down the barrel and pulls the trigger like on himself. The problem is that when he turned it to himself to look down there, like he's holding it the correct way. And of course it feeds one in. And it's ready to go. So man.
How did he not die?
Oh, he tapped him. Well, he luckily he must have like flinched or something, realizing how stupid he was being right as he pulls the trigger, because he caught himself in the eyebrow with this paintball, dude. It was like one of those, full circle rings, drew blood. Like if he had shot himself in the eye, kissed the eyeball goodnight.
Dude,
yeah.
Like there's no way an eye's going to hold up.
There's always that one dude who has his gun set way too high in the pressure, and it just like causes you to legit bleed.
Yeah.
That's the worst.
But I mean, if you're going to get muzzled by a paintball gun, that's one thing, but that's not the guy to take to the real range with you later on. Because a paintball bounced off it did a lot of damage to his eyebrow area, his brow, but
not
bullets
his brain.
not.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, you were saying the cop reminded you of something?
We have a lot of gun stories. Well, anyway, I was out in the field with one of my friends. There was a field near our house growing up. Me and my friend were out there with our BB guns. The thing about these BB guns is they didn't really have any they just looked like normal little BB guns. They're not like paintball guns. They look somewhat like actual guns, but not really. Well, anyway, this old lady that lived on the end of our street, she saw us walk into this field and called the cops on us. And so it took him like 30 minutes to get there, because I'm sure the cop knew what was going down. And it turns out that she knew what was going down. She just called the cops on us because about a year ago, someone had shot out one of her windows with a BB gun. And so she was just like, really...
Everybody's guilty at that point.
Frick them kids, dog.
Basically. But anyway, so me and my...
Let's see if I could get a cop to shoot one of them.
Yeah. And so me and my friend are walking back from out there because, we were out there for like at least 45 minutes, but it took the cops so long to get there. It was... Or maybe she just saw us later and called. I don't know. But anyway, we're walking back, and this cop car pulls into this dirt road. And we're just like, oh no. So basically, we just standing there. I had the good sense to put down the gun-shaped object. And I'm sure it would have been fine either way. But I was like 10 and I was scared or whatever. And so this cop just comes up. In hindsight, I could tell he's just totally done with it. But he's just like, hey, what are you guys doing? And so all was well in the end. But as a 10-year-old holding something that looks kind of like a gun, seeing a cop car pull into the dirt road that you're on is not it's not a very fun thing.
This is where I die.
Not a
He's
thrilling
gonna shoot me
experience,
in
huh?
the face.
Yeah.
Well, it's happened before, you know.
Yeah,
You never
yeah,
know.
I mean-
It just takes like a misunderstanding, and
But usually,
And,
though,
you
that's
know.
like, some dude's like actively trying to convince people that it is real, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or is like
it's true.
waving it around and making threats even though it is fake, you know what I mean? It's not like they see some 10-year-old kid with
there's
a...
some kids out there with a BB
Nerf
gun
gun,
shooting
yeah.
my windows.
And the cops just go up and say, "Get him!" Ah! Just magged him, all 17 rounds.
Yeah.
Some poor kid.
Yeah. Well, I know when we had the cops show up on one of our paintball games, I was actually actively running over a berm in the direction of the police officer who was walking up the other side of the berm.
Just
And,
shoots you in the
like
face.
he got startled enough that he like reached his hand down to his firearm and then kind of like stepped back. But like as soon as I saw him, I like just dropped the gun. Like I just dropped it and stuck my hands up like
You peed a little
"Whoa,"
bit.
like I didn't even care about getting shot at that point. I was just like, I don't really want to get shot type thing.
There's this video that I saw, and it's like this firearms instructor, like a self-defense instructor, and he's showing these people, okay, so you have your gun. He's basically going through like what to do if there's like a mass shooting or whatever, and so he's explaining what to do if you see a cop and you happen to have your weapon drawn for whatever reason, assuming you're trying to stop whatever's going on, and it's pretty funny. So he's just like showing all these people, and he tries to make it fun so that they remember. And so he assigns one of them to be the cop, and he says, "Okay, I want you to look at me at some point." And so like he acts like he's looking around looking for the dude, and then the cop looks at him, and then he like shrieks, drops the gun, and falls on his face, and he's just like, "No," and puts his hands behind his head.
just falls to the ground.
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends, like what kind of situation you're in. I mean, of course, you can't train for every situation that you're going to come across, but definitely firearm training, big proponent of that. I think that if you choose to carry one, if you choose to have one, you should choose to at least get multiple trainings per year and spend some time at the range. Get proficient at it, get safe at it. That way that you're safe with your firearms and you're around safe people.
Do you remember that time that Harker almost killed someone at the range? It wasn't Harker's fault, but it's pretty neat, dude.
Oh yeah.
When that idiot walked in front of us?
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
I was just like, I couldn't believe that. We're all on a firing line, and then Dingus goes to walk down the firing line, but let's walk in front of the rifles. Oh, dude, that was so that today I still have nightmares.
The sheer
Like
terror.
when your 10-year-old boy is like moments away from shooting somebody in the side because he's an idiot. Oh my goodness.
Harker's like actively shooting a rifle down range, and this guy's like, "Hey, I'll probably just walk out in front."
See, the really scary thing was, and I don't know if I've told you. I don't know if I've told you guys this yet before, but I was like about to pull the trigger when I saw him walk in front of me. Like,
oh, I know you were. I was right next to you. I knew you were about to pull the trigger. That's why I was just like, I couldn't believe it had happened, and it happened so fast. And I was like, but that's the kind of people you don't want to take the range with you.
That was yeah.
Because it's like, they're not as familiar. They don't do it a lot. There's like a... it's like you get into the culture of firearms, what's appropriate, what's not. And people, as they're coming into it, they really don't. And some people try to over portray an era of confidence that they really know something that they don't. And that can be dangerous in that situation.
And then they get shot by some 10-year-old who only knows Minecraft. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it's like tragic. And that's the sad reality of it is sometimes people have a hard time regulating their enjoyment into a safer realm.
Well,
these are boom boom sticks. They're a serious thing. They're built and designed to effectively eliminate a target downfield.
And it's like any relatively risky activity. There are survivalists that get themselves killed all the time because they wander out into Alaska and
they never come back.
Basically, I actually read a book. It was a really good book, but I don't remember what it's called. It was about this dude and kind of went off into the stories of other guys who just went and lived up in Alaska. He just kind of disappeared, but it was intentional, and he just wandered up to Alaska, and they found him in a school bus out in the middle of the woods, frozen to death. And things like that apparently happened quite a bit more than you'd expect. That people just decide to dip and go live in the woods and then get themselves killed.
Makes sense. I mean, the woods is not very, homely unless you have the right
Well,
equipment.
it's just one of those things. It's like this is reality. It's not a video game. I mean, I understand like there can be people who are highly trained and highly skilled, but there is still an element of reliance, right?
We live in a society.
Well, it's like I don't know too many people that are willing to, even like Bear Grylls, for instance. I mean, this guy is pretty highly trained. I mean, he's got military training and survival. He's a specialist at it. But yet, I don't think he wanders off into the wilderness without taking the precautions of telling people where he's going, where he's going to be. I mean, they constantly teach survival starts before you leave. And it just seems like as if some people just forget the easiest of elements of it. And they're like, they don't understand that, to them, survivalist is I can just survive alone. Well, that Alone TV show is great and it's wonderful and I love watching it. But at the same time, what you don't see in the background is that there are med check people coming every so many days to take their readings and make sure they're alive and make sure they're doing things, and they have special gear and equipment. They are highly trained as it is, but there's still this whole safety network built in behind it that the average Joe, if he's just going to be like, oh, I'm weekend warrior, I'm going to pop out there, you don't have that. And
see, here's the thing that I think a lot of people forget about. You're not just going to one day show up in the middle of the woods. Like, you're not just going to, unless something goes really wrong. Like, I mean, you get kidnapped and dropped off in the middle of the woods. Like, you're not just going to show up there. So there's no excuse not to have, like, what you need.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the possibility aliens are going to scoop you up and and then you'll just find yourself somewhere in the jungles of Siberia.
Yeah, the jungles of Siberia. A lot of plentiful jungles in Siberia.
Oh, there are.
Oh, really?
I mean, they're different jungles than what you're used to. They're not like swamp jungles or there's even Siberian tigers, but there's jungles. There's a forest that's bigger than than some of our states. And
but that's not a jungle.
Yeah, it's a jungle to me.
Well, if New York is the concrete jungle, I feel like calling the Siberian wilderness a jungle is fitting.
Okay, but still.
Although admittedly, is a little bit of an unorthodox use of the word jungle.
It's more of like a forest than a...
Anyway,
okay,
besides the point.
Such great offense to my use of the word jungle.
Come on,
okay,
it's
not the meerkat jungle. It's got, not the jungles of India, but let's go. Okay, the woodlands
of Siberia.
Siberia.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Actually, it's
500 miles from the nearest person, somewhere near Tuguskan. Tuguskan, is that how you say it?
Tuguskan.
Thing blew up. Not going to be a common thing.
That you just get shipped off to Siberia, yeah.
Well, it's like most situations. Okay, so somebody goes out in the wilderness, they're camping, they get turned around. I mean, I was just reading the other day, I have a relative from the Mayflower, and there's a whole story about him. He went out to gather wood, him and another guy, and they got lost. And they spent the night in the wilderness. They were able to, at dawn, find their way back because, the sun rises in the east. and that's where the coast was.
Wow, really?
But, they got lost out into the woods because they got turned around and didn't know which direction they should go in. They had to spend the night in the woods. So most survival situations you encounter are going to be like that. Somebody's out doing something in the woods or wilderness, having a good time. They get a little relaxed. They get lost. Or the other thing that happens is that they're going to do something and something catches them off guard. Either a storm rolls in or they get in a predicament where they fall down, break a leg, they're off trail. I mean, those things could happen quick, and that's lights out.
Speaking of childhood trauma and caught me off guard, I've got a really great story of what traumatized me as a child. So we know that you, as an educated gentleman, were shocked by things like, the intensity of war and the dangers of guns and paintballs. But what shocked me, more often than not, was my own stupidity as a child. You see, yes, the things that were most traumatizing to me were usually just in my sad little mind. So one of the stories that really sticks out to me is one day, as 10-year-olds do, I think I was even younger than that. I was pretty stupid. I went to go use the bathroom, right? I fucking went into the bathroom, used the bathroom. I was washing my hands, everything's great. Perfectly normal day in the life. And then, like, before I left the room, I turned off the light. You know what I mean? And to my surprise, there was a giant green glowing monster on me. And I screamed with fear. And I ran out into the hallway.
How did you see that glowing? Was it through the mirror that you saw that green glowing monster?
Mirror. There was this giant green glowingness on my chest, and I just got so scared. I don't remember why even, but like just screaming. And I ran out of the hall with terror at like 9 p.m. And everyone's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I was like, "Get it off me!" It turns out I just had a, it turns out that my mini panic attack was caused by my glow-in-the-dark t-shirt. And so, that was pretty traumatizing, honestly. I felt like I was like within seconds of death because I thought there was some kind of creature on me. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So yeah, my own stupidity.
It takes a brave man to admit something like that. That is truly.
Oh, thanks.
I can totally see. I mean, we've all been there where we're half awake, half asleep. We're kind of there, and then we get startled by the simplest of things. I remember one time a cat scaring me when I was a kid. My own cat, like it was traumatizing. But yeah, glow in the dark T-shirt. The traumas of a kid in the 2000s.
This wasn't just like, okay. It was like I was screaming bloody murder running around the halls.
Dude, that goes in the list. That's 21st century trauma right there.
Yeah.
PTSD from my childhood T-shirt.
Well, it's like as a kid, things like that are weird to you too, like glow in the dark stuff, and how magnets float. So because as a kid, you don't really get science. You're like, whoa, magic.
Yeah.
That was pretty much that. I was like, I didn't comprehend that my shirt could just be glowing. So when I did see that, I was like a caveman. I was losing it.
Even though, I mean, well, you didn't comprehend it. You just you didn't think about it. But I mean, you knew that the shirt glowed. It was a glow-in-the-dark T-shirt.
Yeah, it's just you didn't piece it together. You know what I'm saying?
I was like, one time we had this kid that was, his grand plan was to heat up a glow stick in the microwave.
Oh no.
And so he puts his glow stick in the microwave. We're at some scout camp. Well, it wasn't a scout camp. It was a camp out. But the facility we were at was like some school's gym kitchen that they let us use. And there was a microwave there. And he throws this glow stick in there. It'll re-energize it. And he gets it boiling hot like lava. Right?
Oh no.
And then he cuts it open, and then he ends up flicking it all over himself. And it might as well been to the point, this isn't my trauma, but I'm sure it was traumatic to him because it may have been napalm, dude. That stuff was sticking to him as if it was his jelly, and it's lava hot, and he's screaming, "Whoa!" It was pretty bad. His
body's slowly dissolving into a gel.
He ended up having to get some burn cream from the first aid station.
Dude, how dumb do you have to be to think sticking anything other than food in the microwave is a good idea?
Do not microwave glow sticks. It won't end well for you.
Oh my gosh.
On a similar
you're
note,
going to get radiation poisoning or something.
On a similar note, you haven't lived until you've spilled boiling water on your foot trying to make hot chocolate on a fire.
Oh, dude, I could top you there. One time, back in the day, we used to have our microwave on top of the fridge, which, as a 10-year-old kid,
is the dumbest place in the world to put a microwave.
Dad, what was up with that?
No, it's nothing to do with Dad.
That was your fault.
Go where moms want them.
Okay, well then, my mom almost killed me because. One time, I was a lazy little...
Hot soup on your face and melt your eyeballs out.
Yeah, literally. That was what happened. I tried to make soup because I was a lazy little kid who wanted to eat, and I dropped it on my face. And I was just screaming.
Dang.
Then I had burns on my face, I'm pretty sure, for a while. Because I just it tipped over on me because I barely had a grip on it. And Talk about
Did you-
traumatizing, dude.
Yeah.
I never.
You were standing on a chair, right? Did you like fall off?
I don't think so. I like flew off. It was this whole
Yeah,
thing.
like to me,
It was a
that's why you should have microwave counter height. Like it's got to be, you got to be able to get hot things in and out without lifting it above your head.
Of course, I think part of the reason that it was put there is so that the children wouldn't use it. We were just stubborn, you know?
I have a
Yeah, but still, you got to have foresight knowing that kids do stupid things like that.
That reminded
I
me
mean-
of two other kitchen stories.
I mean, of course, it was my microwave, so I'm talking about myself.
Kitchen Nightmares by Hyrum. Here's one more. I'll never forget the day as like an 8-year-old. I walked into the kitchen and I see my wonderful brother Harker. And what does he have? Well, I know Harker fucking knows what's... I'll never forget. I was like, what's this ruckus? I go walking into the kitchen. My brother's a genius, right? So naturally, he's got a cutting board. And he has a mallet. If you don't know...
Dude, it's out of control.
Our mother has lived in Germany for a while, has German ties to German food, so she likes to make schnitzel. And one of the ways you make schnitzel to prepare the meat is you pound it with a mallet. So she has this meat mallet in the kitchen. And like Harker had brought out this mallet and a cutting board and a couple of Taco Bell hot sauce packets from the sauce drawer. I'm sure everyone, it's a classic meme. Everyone's got the sauce drawer. So Harker, with all the excess sauce goes, Harker had just a packet of Taco Bell sauce, and he was like, Hyrum, guess what I'm going to do? And I was like, oh, okay.
I have never heard this story
It's because
before.
this was a secret, because we didn't want you to find out. And Harker's like, check this out. And he slams the mallet down on this packet of Taco Bell sauce. And I was standing behind him. It exploded. It launched sauce everywhere and straight into my eyeballs.
No, the best part of it didn't even get on the counter. It all went behind me into your face.
And I was just screaming yet again. Because, I was just like, as a child, I was curious. I was like, I wonder what he's going to do. I want to watch this thing blow up. That sounds awesome. It's like Mythbusters. But no.
Yeah, be careful what you're looking at.
I almost
right?
got blinded. I almost got blinded for life. Because of you.
I was probably mild sauce. Relax.
Still in the
not gonna
eyeball. It's not
blind you.
easy.
Well, it just got you used to the heat.
To this day, I don't know why I wanted to do that.
I do. You're a destructive little kid.
Well, it's like, why do kids like playing with matches? They just want to see what happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I bet if I burn my house down, it'll be cool.
Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Well, speaking of things that blew up,
Oh my gosh, you have one of the best.
when I was a
love
young
stories.
lad, I went on this camping trip, and it was what they call a Klondike. And most people know about the Klondikes that the Boy Scouts used to go on is a winter camp out. So it's always known for like basically somebody almost freezing to death. Essentially, there's always the story of he got so wet and he just like creeped up to the scoutmaster in the middle of the night. I think I'm freezing to death type thing. Well, anyway, our scoutmaster was really cool and he was on it. He like train us, teach us, tell us, how not to die, expect us not to die, make sure that we brought what we needed not to die, and that we were on it. Well, we got to this scout camp. Well, the next day I woke up and my leg had gotten a little cold the night before. Well, we were going to have our race the next day, but I think I might have frozen my knee. And so I could barely walk. Like I was like hobbling around and I wasn't able to do the race. So they're like, well, just stay at camp and you can help prepare the food for when everybody's back from the race. And I was kind of like, wow, that sucks a little bit, but whatever. Because I couldn't walk very well. Hobbling around the camp, I went and got by the fire, warmed myself up. Well, anyway, as we were out and about digging through the supply cabinet there that had all the food supplies in it, I found a CO2 cartridge. And of course, you're a scout.
Yeah.
And it's just me, and there was me and another scout that were at the camp by ourselves, and we're like talking to each other, and I was like, we should throw this in the fire, and I've always heard they explode. Let's see if they do.
Oh, jeez.
So we're like, yeah, let's do it. So we built up our fire. We got some more wood on it, make it real nice and big and hot. We pitched this thing right in the middle, just right down in the hot coals. And we throw it in there, and it was funny. We threw it in there, and we ran like as if we had just lit the fuse to some dynamite. Like, oh, yeah, it's going to blow up right now. We book it. We wait. 5 minutes go by. 10 minutes go by. We're huddled behind and it's getting cold. Like, the fire's over there. Our source of heat. We threw this stupid thing in it. Now we're stuck over here behind an RV.
Was it like one of the small little silver ones?
Yeah, one of those little silver ones that go in like a BB gun pistol.
Yeah.
And so our scoutmaster had a guest come with us. He was there as a guest for the Klondike, going to speak to the scouts, and he was up there in an RV. So that's why we were hiding behind his RV, which was a good 30 feet from the fire. But we're like, man, dude, it's getting cold, and this isn't going off. What do we do? Do we go fish it out? Do we like starting to panic a little bit? 15 minutes go by, nothing. We're like, how could it not have blown up by now? It's got to be like hot. I was like, well, maybe they're so strong that they won't blow up no matter how hot they get, or the fire's not getting it hot enough. The problem we were facing, we had done this about 25 minutes before the scouts were supposed to be back for lunch. And we're getting to that point in time, and this thing hasn't blown up yet. And so we're freezing to death because we have to stay away from the fire. We're miserable. And we've got to figure out what to do, because there's going to be like 20 scouts standing around this fire warming up from their Klondike adventure. So we decide, man, when we see the first scout coming into camp, we're going to have to go dig that thing out of there. There's just no way. We'll just dig it out and throw it in the snow real quick, and it'll hopefully, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. And so we're waiting. We see the scouts coming, and they're a ways off. They're like 100 yards off. And I'm like, man, here we go. It's go time. I walk around the end of the RV. I go to where there's a shovel not too far away. I mean, any fire that you have on scouts, you have a shovel there to help put it out or maintain it. And I'm heading to the shovel. My other buddy, he comes out and he's like walking towards the fire. We're like maybe 25 feet away from the fire. All of a sudden, boom! This huge, chunks of wood are flying out of the fire. I hit the dirt. He hits the dirt. Of course, the scouts that are walking, they're like, what's going on? All the leaders that are within a mile are like, what the heck? Yeah, not a good way to not draw attention to yourself. Let's just put it that way. But that was a pretty startling moment when you use just stupid things that kids do that they don't really think it through. And then they put themselves in situations where it's not too fun.
That wasn't even the same explosion story I was thinking you were going to tell. You have a lot of explosion stories.
I have a few explosion stories. Apparently, I got this fascination with explosions.
Yeah, maybe lay off the explosions.
Real quick. So everyone's been on a camp out where they get really cold. Just as you did scouts, Hyrum and I also did scouts. And so for the Wilderness Survival Merit Badge, you need to build a shelter and sleep in it. We live in a desert state. And so oftentimes there's fire bans where we're not allowed to have fires. We'd gone to a scout camp and we were going to do the Wilderness Survival Merit Badge, but it was during one of those fire bans. But, to kind of make up for that, they allowed for multiple people to be in the same shelter. And so we teamed up with like was it 4 other dudes, I think?
I think it was 5 at the start.
Yeah, we teamed up with like 5 other dudes, and we built this shelter. It was a nice shelter. The problem was it was too big. So, if you have a big shelter, it doesn't keep heat in very well. And so we built this really big, intricate shelter, but it was big. And anyway, one of the dudes, his friends showed up, so he left. So there was like 6 of us left. And so we settle in for the night. And, Hyrum and I are sleeping at kind of what was at the top of the shelter. because it was on a hill slanted. We were at the upper part. So we go to
Yeah.
sleep pretty quickly because we'd brought tarps and everything. Well, one of the kids had showed up in swimming trunks, a short sleeve t-shirt, and didn't have a blanket or anything.
This poor kid.
Genius.
He was like,
And
I
so-
signed up for the class and I was at swimming and I didn't know we were leaving. And so he just got out of the pool and ran up the mountain.
Leader fell.
Yeah, he was
fell.
chasing us up the mountain. This poor big kid, and just swimming trunks and a t-shirt. And he got
And
up there.
he's like
And he-
12,
Yeah.
maybe. And
He-
so
Yeah, that's not
He
bright.
comes up, and everyone's already building their forts. Like, we're almost all done for the evening. About to do this little hike, and he's like, please, I need shelter. He's like crying dang near. And so we let him join us.
Go away,
Like,
Gollum. Go away.
We were like, okay, whatever. Like, it was too awkward to say no. And he
Yeah.
he crawls in there with us eventually. And Harker and I go to sleep, and we wake up, and this kid, he was at least smart enough to bring his blanket, right?
like an emergency blanket.
Emergency
like one of
blanket,
the-
not great, but like a foil blanket. And like we wake up at like 12 midnight because these guys were being really annoying, like loud and stuff. And we look down at like our friends and we're like, "Hey, where'd that guy go?"
No,
And he was like,
hold
"Oh."
up. The
Go ahead.
reason that we'd woken up is because we heard them fighting over something. We woke up, they're fighting over his space blanket. He's gone. I'm like, okay, hold up, where'd that kid go? I'm like the oldest one in the tent, and they're like, oh, yeah, we kicked him out.
they
What?
well, here's the thing: this kid was suffering. He was in pain. He was so
Hunger
cold.
Games, and he lost.
And they were like, you know what, guys? Rather than help him, let's convince him that he should leave just in order to take all his stuff. And the poor kid, he lost the thing. Like, he didn't even get the merit badge because he forfeited. He had to go down.
Yeah, and he probably had the most miserable night of his
Oh,
life.
yeah. And he was essentially bullied into leaving by the four other guys who were like, get out of here. You're an idiot. And they just like...
Well, that's when the instructor should have said, look, dude, you're completely unprepared for this. I can't in good conscience let you stay the night out here in your swim trunks.
Well,
See, the thing is,
and
it had
t-shirt.
been rainy all day, and it was pretty cold, admittedly. And so he was like, I believe he was legitimately like, it was best for him to go back down. But they just like booted him. And so I wake up, this kid's gone. They're fighting over his stuff. Like, and so they're freezing to death. The other kids, they're freezing to death at the bottom
Are
of
you
the
sure
tent.
this wasn't like Lord of the Flies?
was.
It was about that. No, that was the experience that taught me that book is accurate. And so
Yeah.
the night continues on. I can't go back to sleep because it's gotten to the point where if you sleep through it, you're fine, but you can't go to sleep when it's like so cold,
Yeah.
And so I'm laying there. I'm fine, generally speaking. Anyway, night goes on. There's this one kid. I happen to be wearing my watch because I had the good sense to bring it. Every 30 minutes or so, he'd ask me, "Hey, what's the time?" And I'd look at my watch and I'd say like, "Oh, it's like 3:30 in the morning." And then for like the next minute and a half, he'd be cursing about how time was going too slow.
He just
And now he
starts
wasn't-
screaming the
how he
F word. Like this random kid we just let in.
The things that kids do that adults don't.
It's like, and at one point in the night, right, we were lying there. Harker and I were well prepared, okay? We were big brain guys, frankly. We'd brought blankets and stuff, and we brought jackets. We were smart. We were up there snug as a bug.
It's not like it was a mystery what you were
Yeah,
going to
right,
go do,
you
too.
think. But anyways, we were up there snug as a bug, but nice and warm. Like, that's why we'd gone to sleep in the first place. We were perfectly fine. These other kids were down there the whole night, whining, dude. Just like, it's so cold. They were like crying the whole time. And so one of them finally has the bright idea. He's like, hey, what if I just ask them to go up there and like hang out with them and like lie in between us or something, right? So he doesn't die. So this kid, I remember his name is Ben. He was a pretty chill guy, actually. He was like, hey guys, you mind if I come up there? And Harker and I were like, oh, okay, sure. And they were all like,
Dog
like,
pile.
yeah, everyone is like, hold up a second, if Ben gets to go up there. So that's what we ended up doing. It was just a big dog pile of like guys just lying on top of each other.
Trying to stay
Yeah.
alive.
Because they were like, they all like rushed up on top of us at the same time, basically. They were like, I remember being Ethan was like, Ethan was on the last episode. He was there. And he was like, what the freak going on? And he runs off.
I'm not going to be left out.
And he's like, yeah, dude. And all these guys. It was Ben, Ethan, and then, oh gosh, the swear
The kid
guy.
who kept cursing, yeah.
His name was like Daquan or something. I don't know. Wasn't that his name?
I think
Cool.
I think that was it. Yeah.
His name was Daquan. He ran. He was like, get out of the way. And everyone like just cried the rest of the night. They were still complaining the whole time, man.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to survive.
No, he had to wake up on like 2 hours of sleep. And
wouldn't you say, Hyrum, that was an instance in your life when things weren't so copacetic?
Yeah, I was definitely not copacetic. Well, actually, it was copacetic for me, but we always keep it copacetic around here.
Of course we do. That's the way it goes. Well, I think it's been a good evening. We've got a lot to discuss, a lot to think about. Thank you for joining us here at our little podcast where us three lads, as Hyrum likes to say.
Where dreams come true.
Where dreams come true, and we get to conversate and relive and hash out our opinions and our pasts. And we hope that you enjoy. And hopefully in the future we'll find some topics that might intrigue you and inspire you to listen more. If you have any questions or any recommendations, feel free to email us at copaceticpodcast@gmail.com. And I believe that's it for tonight. Thank you for being with us and helping us keep it copacetic.